What? Oh man, you're way crooked. What's happening, guys? We're back and we're not doing fiberglass today. All right, after a month and a half of fiberglass videos, I'm done with that for a while. I'm pretty burnt out. So we cleaned up the shop. I got the chassis back up on the table here, threw the roll cage on it. The roll cage is all finish welded, so that's good to go. I threw the rear axle in. So today I want to get an idea of what the back half of our chassis is gonna look like, so that we can mount up our rear down bars on the roll cage. The big thing that has to go in the back end of the chassis is our fuel tank and our battery. So once we get the fuel tank kind of figured out and mounted, then we can build out the back half of our chassis, and then we can figure out where those down bars go. So fuel tank's sitting in there right now. I want to throw a tire on this rear axle so we get an idea of kind of where the tire is going to sit, so we know how far back we can go, and then figure out the angle in the fuel tank and hopefully get her mounted. So let's just get to work. All right, I welded up the frame. The tank will sit in this. Originally, I was just gonna use a couple chunks of flat bar to make straps, kind of like a regular car has to hold its tank in. But I got looking at it, that tank's gonna weigh over 100 pounds once it's full of fuel. And it sits way at the back of the chassis. It's gonna be bouncy back here. If one of those straps were to break, we'd have a real mess on our hands. Also, that tank is aluminum and it's only gonna be about 6 inches off the ground. So any pebbles or anything that get kicked up by the tires are just gonna cause havoc on it. So I wanted to have something a little more sturdy. So this is just a steel angle iron frame. It's made out of an old bed frame. It's the cheapest way to get angle iron. So, and then it was pretty heavy, so I drilled a couple speed holes in it. So this will get welded in there. I also cut just a chunk of 1x1 square as a cross member to go in between those two angle pieces. That'll set the angle of our tank, whether it's wherever we put that bar in. And then once we weld this in, we'll run a couple of straps up from here up to this cross member, and that'll support this frame. So yeah, let's figure out some way to get this secured in there, set the angle of our tank, weld in that cross member, and then our tank should have a place to sit. All right, with the fuel tank sat in there, we got our rear bodywork angle finalized. So now what we need to do is kind of build out the box for the trunk area. So we're just gonna come off of these bottom nodes here, come straight up and forward, and just kind of build a big square. I don't want real sharp corners on my bodywork, so this is set in 2 inches from the edge of our bodywork. So we'll have enough room there to put a 2-inch radius on our bodywork and kind of smooth that back end out. But for the main structure, it's just gonna be square. So let's grab some tube and cut her up. Perfect. So we got all these bars tacked up. I am fighting a little bit to keep it square because we got no diagonal bracing on this whole trunk area. So before I go through and do all the finish welding on these corners, I'm gonna come in and put a big X brace across the back, and that should hold everything straight and square. And then I can finish up those welds, and then we can put on our bottom corner plates that a roll cage is going to come down into, and then we can continue that. So first things first, we'll cut up a bit of that 3/4 inch round, make an X on the back and weld that in, and then see where we go from there. All right, so we got our cross member tacked in there. I'm gonna come through and do a second cross member, but for right now, this one's good enough to hold everything square. Next step is gonna be to come through and do all the finish welding on our joints. We're probably gonna wait until we have the rear axle out to do that, so we can flip the chassis around and get a bit better access to it. But we're all out of time for today, so we're gonna call it an episode there. Made a lot of progress. Got the fuel tank mounted, got the trunk framed out, you know, finalized kind of the shape of the car really. So next up we gotta do like our roll cage. We gotta figure out some body panels for the back here, which are gonna be kind of tough because we have to put a radius on both corners. So it might be, I don't know, we'll have to figure that out later. So I'm gonna call an episode there. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, hit the like and subscribe button. Go check us out on Instagram, Leftfootfirst Media, and we'll see you next week. I'm out of here.